How are we doing today? Steve Mingleco, Final Web Design. Today I'm going to review a CNBC documentary on the Metaverse, what's kind of happened with that whole Metaverse project and how Facebook slash Meta has lost billions of dollars on the project, and kind of learn more about where that whole system's at. So let's get into it. Final Web Design, this is Steve.
Turning towards
All right,
the
guys, so here it
metaverse, talking ad nauseum about the metaverse.
There's been a lot of snark about what exactly the metaverse is.
The metaverse, a byproduct of COVID isolation, mass-produced virtual reality headsets in the burgeoning Web3 space.
If we think back a couple of years, we had, huge companies investing in metaverse divisions and hiring chief metaverse officers and whole strategies around this.
Banks started opening branches in the metaverse. Celebrities made headlines buying property in the metaverse. ETFs around the metaverse trade started popping up.
While we were all still sort of under pandemic lockdown. So there was over-exuberance.
Yeah, who doesn't remember that during the pandemic when this whole metaverse was kind of taking off and people were talking about like buying property and getting their bank accounts set up in the metaverse. And then when they went to display it, it was like these really amateur figurines that just didn't meet the expectations of what people were expecting. So let's see where it's gone now since that whole time in 2020.
It's in metaverse because people were looking to socialize and it wasn't that easy to do in real life.
At the peak of the metaverse hype cycle, Citibank estimated the space could hit $13 trillion in valuation by 2030. Microsoft threw its hat in the metaverse ring. Even Web3 and crypto projects capitalized on the trend, with decentralized metaverses like Decentraland and Sandbox.
People would take this sort of idea of a digital asset, apply that to the 3D virtual worlds, and huzzah, you've got the metaverse.
But when it comes to the metaverse, no one stakes their claim on the space more than Facebook.
Facebook is announcing its name change officially, now changing its corporate name to Meta.
The next platform.
I think a lot of that whole reason, though, that they also went around and changed their name to Meta was because they were buying WhatsApp, they were buying Instagram, they had Facebook, they were working on the Metaverse. They had the 3D goggles that were going to be excluded for the Metaverse. So I think a whole lot of that was coming together to kind of create this meta world, and that's why they ended up changing their name to the Metaverse.
Platform and medium will be even more immersive. An embodied internet where you're in the experience, not just looking at it.
In October of 2021, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg placed his trillion-dollar social media company at the forefront of the metaverse conversation, investing heavily in its Reality Labs segment, kicking off the entire Wall Street hype cycle.
There was genuinely a need and a desire at the time for Facebook, the company, to rebrand into something else.
The metaverse was Facebook's answer to an increasingly online population, with Zuckerberg estimating 1 billion users by the end of the decade. So that leads us to ask,
1 billion users by the end of the decade. I think there's 6 or 7 billion people in the entire world. So that, I don't think, got even close to what his expectations, because I don't personally know anyone who's invested in the metaverse.
where is everybody?
Where is everybody exactly?
If you build it, they will come. I think we're all still waiting to see if people will come.
Will people come? Probably not. What happened to the metaverse? The big question. Look at those graphics, they're just so amateur.
To understand the metaverse and Meta's role in the space, first we have to figure out what exactly it is.
The metaverse cannot be defined.
Kind of like a virtual digital world, universe, if you will, in which people can essentially have like their internet counterpart, essentially like an avatar of yourself, live inside this virtual world.
An open-ended, interconnected world with user-driven content and the potential for the users to cross into other platforms.
Trying to define what a metaverse or the metaverse is was kind of one of the biggest issues that actually surrounded the metaverse.
There we go. There's a good sentence right there. No one knows what the metaverse is and what's driving all of its hype. I mean, this looks like a Roblox game for the PlayStation 3. Its graphics, its presentation, everything is just very off, at least from a standpoint of somebody who works in IT every day.
This overall as concept, because it was never really universally agreed upon.
While it's difficult to nail down an exact definition of a metaverse, the term predates Meta and virtual reality headsets. Online platforms like Second Life came about in the 2000s and are considered early examples of metaverses. virtual spaces where players could assume digital identities and interact with other players from around the globe. Originating primarily from the video game space, more recent examples of metaverses include multiplayer games like Fortnite and Roblox. Even Blizzard's...
So they're just said at Roblox where you had this environment where you were kind of running around with other people that were all engaged. I don't know so much about Fortnite. I guess you could say that about any online multiplayer game, but that's essentially what they're doing, except to have more of a lively experience than just a gaming experience.
World of Warcraft could be defined as a metaverse.
You have Fortnite, Roblox, which are 2D versions of a metaverse where they are these kind of immersive open world platforms.
So if metaverses already existed, why did the term gain popularity in 2020?
Look at how much that's really cracked down on the amount of people looking at this information. This was the peak right here, and I remember looking at this, and they were losing tons of money every month. The Facebook stock was actually going down significantly because of this whole Metaverse project that they were just pumping, and wow, it looks like this is not a good sign for going into 2025.
21. Well, a lot of it has to do with the advancement of virtual reality.
If you're talking to a CTO of a big Fortune 500 company and trying to, say what technology trends you need to be up to date with, at that time, VR, the metaverse, kind of checked all of those boxes.
Well, not in our industry. We definitely got into a little bit of VR, but as far as looking at the metaverse, we never expected our clients or recommended to our clients that they get into this yet. We're kind of watching and just seeing how this all played out as well.
There was a bit of a sense in 2020 and into 2021 that this was a technology that was ready, that it was finally going to hit the big time, because
it doesn't look ready.
I mean, we've had a lot of false dawns in virtual reality in the past. There have been many times when people have said, this technology is only a year or two away from being the next big thing.
And that is where Reality Labs played a huge role for Meta. Created in 2014 after its acquisition of VR startup Oculus, Meta started ramping up investment in Reality Labs over the past 5 years. In December of 2021, 2 months after changing its name, Meta officially launched its online multiplayer virtual reality game, Horizon Worlds.
By the end of the decade, we hope to basically get to around 1 billion people in the metaverse doing hundreds of dollars of commerce each.
Yeah, 1 billion users. I just find that number incredible, because even if you think of the population in the United States, somebody who can afford those headsets and all of that, that's 300 million people. Now you have to go find another billion or another 700 million people outside of the United States, and that's if every single American used it. I mean, those numbers are just absolutely unrealistic in my idea.
A goal that is looking less and less achievable.
I think of the big moment as when the pictures came out of Mark Zuckerberg's avatar in Horizon Worlds a couple years ago, and it's this incredibly low quality avatar, and people are like, this is what we're supposed to be getting excited about? This is what you're saying is the future? Well, who would want to go into this space?
Virtual reality check.
The problem with Metaverse is people assumed that they would be developed instantaneously, and even Facebook, Meta, trying to do it in an environment where they're a publicly traded company and have to show success on a quarterly basis was even too fast for a company as well-funded as Meta was.
Now, 3 years after changing its name, Meta's Metaverse has largely fallen out of the tech conversation. Google searches for the term Metaverse are near flat just 3 years after hitting a peak in October of 2021.
Undoubtedly, the last couple of years, we've seen the Metaverse hugely drop away in popularity.
Now Reality Labs faces an eye-watering $58 billion in operating loss.
Wow, $58 billion in operating losses since 2020. That is a staggering number for any business, even the biggest companies such as Meta or Google.
Since 2020. And insider reports from 2022 revealed Horizon Worlds was averaging around 200,000 monthly active users in its first year, less than half of Meta's original goal of 500,000.
If it didn't do this and it decided just to be a social company, which it absolutely could have done, it would have saved it billions of dollars in terms of what it spent on Reality Labs.
So what happened? Why didn't people flock to the metaverse? Well, there's been a lot of finger pointing, but most arguments come back to the same conclusion. No one's really figured out a solid use case for the broad adoption of a metaverse.
Well, I think that is the case. And that's why we never recommended it to our clients. That's why we never got into it as a business, is because what is a use case for this? Do we really need to have a meeting in the metaverse, why can't we have a meeting on Google Meets? Why can't we have a meeting on Skype? Why can't I pick up my phone and FaceTime? There's no reason to go into this world to do things that we can do here in the practical world ourselves using technology that's already available. And plus, I think humans are just like, we don't want another thing to be entrapped in digitally. We want to be in the real world as much as possible, around real people as much as possible. I mean, from a standpoint of just our human sense, to go into this thing for a few hours every day is just, it doesn't make any sense.
The audience wasn't necessarily there at the time, and so hence I think you see that sort of pullback away from it.
Meta pitched the metaverse as a place to both work and play. Companies could host a virtual meeting. You could socialize with friends and play games in Horizon Worlds. Shopping and e-commerce were also part of that early vision.
We're promised all these amazing experiences like Ready Player One, that it could be a wider difference than what we're actually seeing when we get in the device.
To put it simply, people really didn't care. Video game players had their own metaverses already, and the metaverse hype cycle ended up being, well, a lot of hype. And it wasn't just Meta who felt the metaverse bubble pop. Web3 metaverses like Decentraland and Sandbox saw trading activity fall significantly on their site after 2022. Sandbox's unique active wallets, a way to measure daily active users on the platform, fell below 100 in early 2024, meaning less than 100 people were active on the platform day to day.
98% of those projects are
less
totally
than 100 people on active day to day. That doesn't even make sense, really. 100 people that
dead today. The other 2% of them have lost, 95% of their market cap since the highs of 2021.
And Wall Street's been pulling back too, with several metaverse ETFs closing up shop over the past 2 years.
We continue to hope that somebody's going to figure out a killer use case for VR, and even Apple has struggled to do so. I don't think Metaverse anytime soon, using hardware that's readily available now, is going to be happening.
So why keep investing in something that is an obvious cash burn? Well, when it comes to Meta's metaverse, this isn't the metaverse.
they want their own ecosystem. They want their own Google. They want their own Apple ecosystem where they can sell things and make more profit through this metaverse, and that's what Meta's aim is here.
This is the metaverse, or at least it's a piece of it.
The metaverse, it's this broad thing. It's not just virtual and augmented reality, although those are going to be some of the new major computing platforms.
When it comes to defining its own metaverse, Meta says Horizon Worlds isn't the entire metaverse. It's only part of the larger interconnected metaverse ecosystem. That includes the software like Horizon Worlds and the Horizon operating system, as well as wearables like Oculus VR headsets and Meta's newest addition, its Orion AR glasses.
We've been investing for this for a long time just because we are asking the question sort of what comes after the smartphone.
It's what many consider to be Meta's end game, a foothold in the hardware space, a space that has previously eluded them.
So it's playing a long game with the hope that it pays off, and the hope being it gives Meta that platform, the computing platform that they crave, the place where they can set the rules. They don't have to abide by the rules of gatekeepers like Apple or Google. They get to have their own walls, their own building, and have their own developer ecosystem within this new computing paradigm.
Meta's Oculus headsets are the top-selling virtual reality headsets in the world, capturing 60% of the VR headset marketplace. Still, that's holding space in a seemingly declining market, as US sales of all VR and AR headsets dropped 40% in 2020.
Yeah, the reason that all these VR and AR headsets are dropping is because, again, I remember Apple just launched their VR headset, but who wants to be engaged in this 3D world? And even the applications that are available for it are so mediocre in the sense that it's easier to use your iPhone, it's easier to use your computer than to try to engage yourself into these virtual reality worlds that nobody wants to be in to begin with. And that's why I think Apple already has decided to stop publishing their headset.
23 compared to the year prior. Meta did not respond to CNBC's request for comment.
Not very many companies have the luxury of having an enormous amount of cash and having an incredibly powerful advertising business that provides them with a constant stream of money to be doing these investments.
I meet people every day who think Mark Zuckerberg invented VR, which is just a crazy notion.
It is through this that Meta can get its own hardware into people's hands, cutting out the middlemen of Apple and Google. Earlier this year, Mark Zuckerberg sat down with the hosts of Acquired to discuss this exact topic, saying Meta controlling its destiny is strategically valuable.
I think we might be like twice as profitable if we own the platform or something. So I think from that perspective, that's worth a lot. Just from like a pure like dollars perspective, which is not primarily how I come at this stuff.
What Meta did was try to become the company that was building the hard part of the metaverse, which was figuring out the hardware.
It's expensive, losing a lot of money doing it, but it's a bet that they're willing to take.
And controlling the hardware and software ecosystem also means access to two extremely profitable spaces that Meta is intimately familiar with: user data and advertising.
In-game advertising has grown by about 10% a year over the last several years, and it's about a $140 billion industry today.
Meta's ad ambitions are much more grand than just saying, here's a new helmet to put on your character and dress up your avatar with, where Fortnite and Roblox are more kind of on that tier, where Meta's trying to do what they're doing with Facebook advertising, and they're trying to run the ecosystem.
All goes according to plan.
Well, there you go. They're trying to run the ecosystem. They're trying to get data. They're trying to make more sales through this platform. They're trying to use it as a portal so that they have complete control of everybody who's in it and can sell things through it directly, where they don't have to go through, the browsers of Google or the technology of Apple using their phones and computers. So they want this whole environment to be based around them, so they have complete control for sales.
You would have a big online economy going through these metaverses, future metaverses, both the physical with AR to the virtual world and, full 3D VR.
That's where augmented reality comes into play, an arena big tech is investing heavily in. Again, here's Mark Zuckerberg speaking with the Acquired podcast on his vision for AR.
Everyone who had a phone before replaced it with a smartphone, and then a lot of more people got smartphones. If all we get is all the people in the world who already have glasses upgrading to glasses that have AI in them, then this is already going to be one of the most successful products in the history of the world. So, and I think it's going to go a lot further than that.
Traditionally, we've thought about the metaverse, or a lot of people thought about the metaverse as specifically a 3D world and virtual reality. But, Meta has really made it a point to be, AR, augmented reality, blended into the physical world is a really important play.
That's an incredibly powerful thing. If Meta's able to catch that position as a platform player for the next generation of computing, which is, I think, the real ambition here, that puts it in a totally different position to where it's been functioning so far.
So maybe we haven't seen the end of Meta's metaverse ambitions. Maybe the metaverse didn't go anywhere. It could just be another decade before we see the ultimate plans of Reality Labs come to fruition.
It's absolutely been easy to tease Meta and to kind of, point the finger and maybe critique the investments, and that's been a challenge for the company. But I think it's inarguable that if not the Meta, the category it may not still be really even alive and kicking.
It may not be alive and kicking. Well, guys, there you have it. The thoughts on the metaverse. Leave your comments on what you think specifically this whole metaverse entails and where it's going to be in the future. I don't see it as a realistic future technology because there's just no need for it. Nobody wants to be in this world. And when they were even pushing this back in 2020, I kind of felt the same way. I'm like, why would anybody? They're trying to sell real estate in there. That was, it's going to be so valuable. Get your lakeshore property. It's like, what are we talking about? This isn't Miami Beach. This isn't Bitcoin, even with blockchain. This is just a virtual world that is being made up by Facebook, essentially. And it's something that nobody needs and nobody wants to be engaged with or be involved in. And as you saw now, it's essentially dead. I haven't heard of anybody using it. I haven't heard of anybody who, uses it for advertising or marketing or sales or meetings or business-related assets. So I think it's a dead project. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like this, leave a like, a subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video, guys. Peace.